Hi, my name is Matt Philippi, and this is an explanation of a sales dashboard that I created in Power BI. This dashboard was created using a sample database that was imported into Azure SQL Database. I used SSMS, the Database Development Act, and then of course Power BI. You can find me LinkedIn, CPA and Business Intelligence Architect. I also am out on YouTube where I have, you can find me, search my name in YouTube here. I have several videos mostly around connecting Power BI or Tableau to data sources in the cloud, Azure or AWS. For example, right here for Power BI, Azure Data Lake Store, HD Insights, Spark clusters, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and SQL Server on Azure VM. The dashboard that I created looks like this. There's about 8 or 9 tabs here with several different types of visualizations that I want to walk through on how this was created. So really more of an end-to-end solution. As I said, there's actually 20 steps we're going to quickly go through here. The beginning is getting the data source here, then ingesting the data source, transforming it, so just ETL activities, data modeling here. Then there's, I think, 9 pages, most of them with multiple visualizations, and then talk about filters. Then we'll talk about deleting the resource group. Step 1, we're going to download the sample database from GitHub. So if you go out here to GitHub, Azure SQL Worldwide Importers Database, go right here. And then since we're going to be using Azure SQL Database Standard tier, just download that. And can just save it, and then we'll use that in the next step. Step 2, launch Azure SQL Database. I am logged into my Azure portal here. I'm going to go to the plus sign. I'm going to click SQL Database. Brings me to this page here. I'm going to create, and then I'm going to pause while I walk through the step. Okay. Filled in all the information, then I'll hit the create button, pause again. Actually, I'll start the clock. Okay, I'll pause. Okay, deployed. 2 minutes and 20 seconds for a full database to be deployed. Amazing. Power of the cloud. Step 3, connect SQL Server Management Studio to Azure SQL Database. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set the server firewall. I will add my client IP. I will save it. And then that should allow me access based on my IP right here. And I go back out here, server name, click copy. Go over here. Okay. I am not using an Active Directory. I'm using SQL Server Authentication here. So put in my login credentials when I launch the database. Connect. And I'm now connected to this instance of the database. Azure is a little different than SQL Server world, but there I am, now connected. Step 4, we're going to import that database file into Azure SQL Database. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to highlight database. I am going to right click, import data tier applications. I'm going to click next. I'm going to get this file from my local disk. There's that file, Worldwide Importer Standard. Next. Okay, this is actually going to create a new database. So this is where I actually can do the service level here. I'm going to call this standard 2. Next. Okay, then finish. And I will start the clock on this. What I really like about this is it goes through all the bulk import steps, so you can actually see it do the disabling the keys, enabling the keys, and so forth. So I'm going to pause. About 9 minutes in, still going here. You can see it's doing all the steps to import the data and really doing a bulk import. So I'm going to pause it again. Okay, so almost 18 minutes in, we can see that it's enabling the indexes again. So just finishing up the bulk import here, should be done in a second. All right, finished. 23 minutes to get that database imported. Sometimes it goes a lot quicker. That's actually the longest it's ever taken me. But it's really nice. You get a really, this is Microsoft's latest sample database in 2017, replacing the AdventureWorks, and it really shows off the full features of SQL Server 2017 Azure SQL Database. It has all the common tables that you'd see in an ERP system, master tables, customer tables, part tables, vendor tables, and then the transaction or fact tables as well. And then you can see some versioning and history, probably to do a change data capture. And then they actually down here also, I think there's some Internet of Things, oh yeah, vehicle temperature. There's some Internet of Things related tables down here as well. So a really nice full-featured customer or company database to practice on. Step 5, I'm going to write a SQL query for the fact table that we'll be using in Power BI. So for fact tables, they're usually by far the biggest table that you'll import into a BI app, and I like to tailor them and only bring in the amount of data that is necessary. It's dangerous. You could be working in millions and millions of rows, and if you bring unnecessary data in, it can really affect the performance of Power BI. Dimension tables, different. I can import the whole table, no problem there. But the fact table, I like to write a SQL query, and if possible, create a view. So real quickly here, a couple steps here. I'm going to create a schema. First of all, for Power BI demo, I like to create schemas just from a development control and a security standpoint, and then I will create the view, and then here's the SQL statement. So first I'm going to create the schema. If I go into here, update this, you can see I just created Power BI demo, and then now I'm going to go down here and create the schema. Okay, if I update this, okay, you can see I just created fact order here under the schema Power BI demo, and then if I do a quick select star from Power BI demo fact order, you'll see that I will get all the data right here, how many rows we're going to bring in. 200,000 rows. Step 6, we're going to open Power BI and get data from the Azure SQL Database. So real quick, I'm in Power BI here, help I'm using July 2017. I think it's always important to get updated. So get data, more, Azure SQL Database. Okay, I've copied the server IP. Okay, I'm going to click OK. So I'm going to just stick with import. This is where I could actually put in the SQL statement itself, but I created it as a database object in Azure SQL Database. Really don't like doing it right here, but it is an option. I hit OK. Okay, I'm not using Active Directory, so I'm going to go to Database here. I'm going to type in the credentials, connect. Okay, we're working in this database right here. Okay, so the first thing we can see here is the view that I created for the fact table. I'm going to want that. And then I will select all these other master tables or dimension tables. So cities, countries, delivery methods, people. We may not use all these, but hey, why not just bring them in? Suppliers, buying groups, customers. And then we don't need to bring in the order or order line table because we created a view for that. That would be a fact table. And then warehouse stock items. And then I will hit load. And then we can see it loading the data here. Okay, it's finished loading. And before we go to the next step, I'm just going to show one thing here. This auto relationship detector is kind of a disaster. I always delete these out. I don't trust these at all. It's much better to do it yourself. I mean, this is a mess. So that's what I like to do, my best practice. Delete them and establish all the relationships by myself, but we'll do that in a couple more steps. Step 7. Okay, so we're going to talk about transforming the data here, and really one of the better things about Power BI is the power to transform data, relative to other BI tools. This is where it's really strong, and Microsoft is really strong. So I'm in here in the data view. I'm going to go up to edit queries, and rather than go through step by step what I did on every table here, I'm just going to show some key things that I did here. So obviously I have the order fact table. In the previous steps I called this the Power BI.demo fact table. There's a schema name in front of it. So if I go here, you can always go to source, okay, and then so one thing you can do is I go to the advanced editor here, and this is called M, the Power Query ETL language right here. I don't really use M too much. I like to use the GUI itself. So you can see all this. What's really cool is you can kind of walk through the steps on what happened here. So I'm going to go to an example here. This is called the cities table, and there's actually a column with, here we go, location, latitude and longitude data. And I wanted to break this out so we have a separate column for latitude and a separate column for longitude. So you can see it was called point. Well, this isn't going to work. So if I follow down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I ended up with my latitude and longitude column right here. So but all sorts of things that you can do up in here. I like to do my transformations in the query editor view, not in here. Much more effective to go up to query editor. And then yes, this is where you can check out the M right here. So let me go back to that application cities, and then if you take a look at this, oops, sorry. You take a look at the advanced editor, you can see all the steps that I did in here to get that latitude and longitude data correct. Step 8, Power Pivot Data Model, establish relationships. So as I said earlier, I'm in the data model tab here. When it imports the data, it does all of it, establishes the relationships. So I delete all the relationships and I go reestablish them myself. I just think that that's the best practice. So for me, this is a traditional ERP database table setup with a fact table and then a bunch of dimension tables. The key part here for me is just going into SQL Server and looking at the keys, and it makes it really easy. So if you go into the tables right here, or actually, yeah, if you go into the tables, and then you can go down here, for example, the order table right here, then I can look at the keys right here, and then I can understand the relationships and the keys. So you can see in this order table right here, it goes to the customer table, and then the same thing here, cities table, look at the keys. So this is really kind of the roadmap when it comes to establishing relationships in Power BI on a traditional relational database table. Makes it really super easy. Just go dig through the keys here and figure out what is connected to what. Step 9. This is a personal preference, but I like to tidy up the model and not show, if you go up here to the report view, you can see I have basically one table in here and several facts. Well, in reality, we have several tables and several dimensions and facts. And in reality, most of the stuff I'm not going to use. It's nice to have, but I don't want to see it up here. So what I've done is a couple things. First of all, if I don't need the table, I just go up here and hide it in report view. Okay, so you can see the only table here that we can view in the fact table is here, the order fact table. And then the second thing I did here is I went into the order fact and actually wrote the query exactly how I wanted it. So I'm not going to, in the order fact table, there's really no need for me to hide any of these categories in here. So, but it's possible that I want to show the order fact table, but there's some that I don't want to see in report view. So yeah, I would just highlight the line right there and do hide in report view. Step 10, I will preface this by saying this comes from experience and thousands of hours using Power Pivot. So as I go in here, you can see my order fact table. I've grayed out all these dimension tables, but the question is, well, what if you want to use something in the dimension table in the report view? Well, I've added anything that I need as a column in the fact table. And yes, it adds more data, but this is really only category data. It's not, there's no calculations being done on this. And so I think it really makes it cleaner. And in my, as I said, thousands and thousands of hours of using this, I don't know, I've just had problems. So what I do is if I go into the order fact table here, and then I go to, back to this view, order fact, you can see, for example, I've created a column here, and really it's just bringing in the stock item name from the warehouse stock item table. So I just use related. Same thing here, related. I brought in the sales territory name, put it in the fact table here. Salesperson, full name from the application people table. Now I have a column in here. And this is just the information that I wanted. I didn't put everything in here, obviously, just the ones that I knew I was going to use in my visualization. If there's something that I wanted to add, I would have done that. I really like it. It's just a lot cleaner than having all of this in the report view. And in my experience, it just works better performance-wise, even though you're adding data. I just have issues in the past when I try to design pivot tables or visualizations using the dimension tables right up here. So the end result right here is if you go to the report view, you see these little function symbols. Well, that really is a category or a dimension from a related table. Step 11, time to create some visualizations. So the first viz we'll create is called, it's a filled map. The question is where in sales territories. And there's no data in here, but you just see map of the United States, and then the color coding for the territories and the states that are allocated to those territories. So you can actually click up here, Mideast, and it'll just highlight Mideast or Rocky Mountains or Far West. No data in here. Step 12, the question is where sales dollars. So a filled map and a bubble map. Where are sales dollars? So we got two maps here, one with a filled map with color saturation. So this is dollars. I like to use green for the color saturation right here. You obviously can set that back here. So for money, I like to use green. This is interactive, so if I push Texas, it will zoom in on the bubble map, and then the tooltip will tell you which city and the sales dollars. So if I just unclick here, let's check out Pennsylvania. Zooms in on Pennsylvania, and I get a bubble map with the tooltip with the information. Step 13, how much sales dollars, and this is really a sum or a sum X. So if I go here, we can see how much sales dollars. If I click in here, we'll see this is sales dollars right over here. So this actually automatically creates the measure for you for this particular one. So we got sales dollars by state, sales dollars by territory. We can actually select the territory up here. This is dynamic down here. So this is a top 10 by product. And right now it's showing for all territories. But if I click here, you can see it's dynamic. It will actually show the top 10 products for the Mid-East. And the way that that was done is I created rank orders, put less than 11. And then here's the rank order right here. You can see it's a rank X, all order fact name, and then the number of orders right here. So I actually had to create this fact as well right here, just a basic count X for all the order IDs in the order fact table. So that's dynamic. Let me erase this, and you can see it goes back. Step 14, asking the question how many, usually count distinct, count X. We go to the visual, same visualization as this one, except this is how much. This is how many Again, it's using count of order ID, and then in particular in this case, it should be count distinct. So actually I'm going to fix that right here. And the reason it's count distinct because I know in the order table itself we combine the order and the order line table. So that actually should be count distinct, and then I would need to resort this because it's always good for how many in terms of position. The most important thing is to set the largest number on top, sort it down, and then so position would be 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of most, and then also the eye catches the length of the bar chart. And then again down here dynamically top 10, this is all territories, but if I change this, this will be dynamic down here and it will calculate the number of orders, the top 10 products per that territory. So let's go Rocky Mountains here, and that adjusts. Step 15, showing trend over time, a column chart and a line chart. So you go here, trend over time. So this is sales dollars. I used a column chart here. So you can see this is done by quarter. You know, with Power BI, you got some options here on how you want to show this. So I could click on that. That shows me by month. But if I go up, then you can also do the, click on this one. That actually just shows me the quarters for all 3 years combined. But what I really want here is this one right there. Okay. Then we got a line chart here for volume, and then ASP for the quarter. So if I was just to say, hey, in this quarter right here, we did 14.6 million. And then compared to this quarter 2 years ago, well, what was the difference? Why did we go up? Well, let's see here. The ASP went down a little bit, so it's definitely got to be higher volume why we have more sales there. Step 16, proportions, percentages, ratios. You want to see the individual parts relative to other parts or the total. So down here in proportions and percentages, we have a tree map over here and then a donut chart. So this is sales dollars by territory tree map. If you add up all of these, that would be the grand total in the sales. And then down here we actually have the allocation. So the important thing in the allocation part here is over in the values, selected as percent of grand total. And then this is just the same thing except with a donut chart, but using customer segment. So this again, add all these up, that would be total sales dollars, and then here's the allocations by the segment. And then the important part down here is, at least for the donut chart, is the data labels. I selected the percent of total right there. Of course there's pie charts, but pie charts are good if you maybe have 2 categories max, maybe 3. Step 17, multiples, quantities, relationships. So this is the scatter chart. Hey, you want to see number of orders to total sales dollars as a relationship or average order size. So in this particular case, we have the territories here, so you can see that, wow, this is a really straight line. And it'd be nice to put in a reference line here with the p-value, but you can say, basically, the total sales dollars is totally in relation, correlated to the number of orders. And then if I go back over here, I have average order size versus sales dollars, and you can see that the average order size is the same. So if you're doing really well in sales, it just means that you're getting a lot of orders because everybody's orders are about the same size. So used to compare lots of variables or measures, the scatter chart. Step 18, distribution. So for this example here, we're going to say, look at all the orders and then categorize them by the order size in terms of sales dollars. And we're going to use a histogram to look at distribution. So if I click in here, you'll see sales dollars bins and then the number of order IDs. And then of course the key here is I created a bin, and then the way you do that is you go in here, I can create a group. And then I can select my bin size, min value, max value, you know, So bin size 10,000, something like that. I can call this 10,000, and then it'll create a bin that I can use to create a histogram. So you can see, so there's a second one I just created right there. We're not going to use that one, but I already used this one. So you can see for worldwide importers, sales, almost everything is between $0 and $2,000. A few $2,000 to $4,000, and then there's a few big home run orders over here in the $18,000 to $20,000, but mostly everything is less than $4,000. Step 19, filters, and just wanted to talk quickly about filtering out data. So there's visual level filters, page level filters, and report level filters. And I like to think of this as the developer sets these levels. And then there's slicers. So after these filters are set, then the user can choose what they want to see using a slicer. So the best way to show that is to go over here. I have this visualization right here. So you can see right here I have a visual level filter, and I'm just going to change this. I'm going to just select Far West, and the only one that's going to change is this visualization. Okay. There. Or Great Lakes. Okay. Next we have page level filtering. So I can put a filter in here that's going to apply to all of the visualizations in here. And I'm going to put in page level filters. And then now if I click Far West, all of the visualizations will change on this particular page. Okay? But nothing will change on the other pages, only this page. And again, this, I like to think of this as the developer setting this. And then once I change this, the user has a filter up here, but they only get to see what the developer selected right here. Okay? And then the final is report level filters. So the developer will set this report. So let's just say we're distributing it to the sales team. We only want the sales person to see their territory and their territory only. Then we could select Great Lakes here. And then all of them will just have Great Lakes. Okay. Well, this one has Rocky Mountain. I don't know why. Okay. Again, this is all in theory. Sometimes in Power BI it's pretty new. Sometimes it doesn't work perfectly. Sometimes it does work perfectly. So getting back to this one right here, basic filtering, you know, middies. Okay, I just added that on the report level. So if I go over here, then I should see Great Lakes and Mideast are the only two. And then, like I said, slicers are the user gets to pick, but only after what the developer has filtered out. And this is actually a chart itself using right here. Okay, step 20, done with the visualization. So I want to make sure I've stopped using this database that I set up. So I'm going to go into, click into Resource Group, and then Power BI Demo. And one really nice thing is it'll show all the resources that I activated. So there's a server, and then there's two databases in here. So I just click Delete, and I can copy right here, and then hit Paste, and then hit Delete. And it'll say deleting this resource group. Really simple, easy way. That's why I like Azure. One of the features I really like is the resource groups. And that concludes this explanation. So again, I'm LinkedIn, Matt Philippi, CPA and Business Intelligence Architect. And you can find me out on YouTube here. You can subscribe to this if you like it, and just subscribe. Several different videos and playlists, and almost 11,000 since I've been putting up content in March of 2017. Thanks for watching.